A couple of questions. We talked here a little bit now about, let's say, the corruption of the legacy media on the news front by Big Pharma, and you just made reference to the same thing happening in the scientific domain, which is really awful to see journals like New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet and so forth, and Science for that matter, and you're seeing it with Nature as well, degenerate into organs that are no longer producing trustworthy science. That's a real catastrophe. You saw recently, like yesterday, that DeSantis basically bypassed the legacy media, and Pierre Poilievre did that in Canada when he ran for the leader of the Conservative Party, by the way. He just skipped over the legacy media entirely, and DeSantis announced his presidency on Twitter. And here you are also talking to me on YouTube, right? And so that's not exactly standard political practice. And so what do you think of, why did you decide to talk to me today on my YouTube channel? And what do you think of DeSantis' use of Twitter? Has your campaign also been considering, for example, utilizing Twitter? Because obviously Musk has made that open to any candidate. And how are you guys conceptualizing your move forward on the presidency campaign front in relationship to non-traditional media?
Well, Jordan, I've been censored in the corporate media for 18 years. So since 2005, I've been actively censored, not only just for vaccine articles, but for all of my articles. And I was very, very active on those media fronts for, decades, but I've been slowly censored now to complete wall-to-wall censorship. And particularly during the last 3 years, we've had to figure out ways to get around that censorship. And so, we've done that by using non-traditional media. I was on Instagram. I had almost 1 million followers on Instagram at one point, but then in the pandemic, they deplatformed me. So I'm
right. You're still banned. You're still banned on Instagram. Is that the case?
Instagram and banned on TikTok. I'm interested to see what happens to you with YouTube because.
Well, they've left me alone. YouTube has left me alone. It's quite surprising because I've said things many times that in principle should have got me in trouble on YouTube, but they haven't even put any strikes against my channel. They demonetized my daughter for a whole year for reasons we never did discover, but they've been completely hands-off with me. They've added those warnings or clarifications now and then, especially when I talk to people like Bjorn Lomborg, and we'll get to that later. But I don't know what it is. YouTube has been hands-off.
In answer to your question, when my uncle ran in 1960, television was a new phenomena, and he recognized the power of television, that would play a key role in that presidential campaign for the first time in history. And he was able to exploit that and to win that election. In the 2016 election, Twitter played a key role in getting Donald Trump elected, absolutely critical. He probably, if he didn't have that Twitter account, he probably would not have been elected. Who knows? But I would say there's a good chance he wouldn't. Today, Twitter is still important. And I have now 1.2 million followers on Twitter. I really didn't start actively doing Twitter until Elon freed it up. Because if during the pandemic, I was mainly posting, kitty cats and rainbows and unicorns, because if I said anything if I talked about what I was thinking about, I would have been deplatformed. But once Elon took over, I started, they unshackled me. And, but also I think this year is going to be the political campaign that will be decided on by podcasts, and particularly because the candidates are not wanting to debate. So not only is Biden not debating, but I think Trump may not debate. So I think people like me are going to end up we're going to really test whether these podcasts. And, I was talking about Tucker having 4.5 million nightly views. Well, the podcast that Joe Rogan did with Peter McCulloch got 40 million views. So that,
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so,
Well, Rogan's a force of nature.
yeah. So Tucker is 10 times what CNN is, gets, and Rogan's audience is potentially 10 times what Tucker was getting. So I think the podcasts have the capacity this election for reaching people and allowing, sort of dissident and insurgent candidates like myself to end run the corporate media monolith and to reach large numbers of Americans without going onto the networks. So I'm hoping that works.